Good morning and hello everyone. Welcome to Governance Live here run by the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute. We are live on YouTube this morning and this session will also be carried on our social media pages. We are happy to be continuing this series which we started some years ago leading up to Governance Week, the signature event of the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute. This year we had daily interviews of Governance Live for the 2 weeks leading up to Governance Week. And then we continued weekly in the month of July as we introduced several of our new directors and we hosted our global ambassador, Professor Bob Garrett. And last week, our chairman, Nigel Romano, came in on the actual date of our anniversary. So July has been a celebration month for us as CCGI turned 12 years old. And as it was only last week that we turned 12 years old, we decided why not continue to celebrate? There's a lot for us to reflect on, to enjoy, and also to plan moving forward. So today we have selected a very special person who is going to be joining us for Governance Live. She has been a member of CCGI since 2013. So I would say almost as long as several of our directors and even the founding team of CCGI. And she is Elizabeth Cox. Liz is joining us from Guyana, and we are so happy to have her here with us for Governance Live. Liz, good morning and welcome.
Hi, morning, Kamla, and morning viewers, or good afternoon, or good evening, viewers. I'm assuming you'll be capturing globally because I know you do have that connection. And thank you so much for having me. I know that you're as excited about CCGI as I am about CCGI. But it has always been, if I can get right into why I joined, why I stayed a member, it has always been my interest in governance. And I think this was peaked when I was doing my master's degree, and we had to do case studies. And two of those case studies were WorldCom and Enron. And from there on, I was always interested in, understanding the true nature and information on governance. And I think CCGI has really given me that opportunity to really delve deep into it. It has provided me with the opportunity to network with my colleagues in the Caribbean. I mean, even though I had a network, I think it really strengthened and expanded that network, not only in the Caribbean, but globally as well, Kamla. So it has been a great journey for me at CCGI. I know I welcomed you as CEO, having been a member for a while, for sure.
Yes, yes. And we are happy that you have mentioned what would have generated your interest initially. Those two cases you mentioned, Enron and WorldCom, are really some global case studies that everyone looks to if we try to understand why it is so important that we have effective governance practices. And certainly here in the region, we will not want to learn those lessons in such a painful way. So not only did you do it for your MBA, the fact that you have continued here as a member speaks volumes about your dedication to ensuring that you understand the evolving practices as well. So we are so happy to have your support, not just as a member, but someone who has been a panelist, who has been a presenter, very, very deeply connected with us. We truly appreciate that, Liz.
Well, my education, I have to say education with CCGI has really allowed me as a board member, as a chair of a company, to really push for governance, to ensure that there is separation between board and management, and understanding the significance of those, separation, and ensuring that is actually adhered to. Because I think that is very important. The courses you have done really sets or ignites the system of rules and governance and why it's important. And I think too, the selection, and I don't know how you do it, but the selection of presenters are just phenomenal in terms of what they bring to any session. So I think, your job at CCGI and your role at CCGI has really expanded and brought to light the essence of governance in a very unique way, by actually utilizing top experts from within our region outside of our region. Those connections has really brought not just the local experience, regional experience, but the global experience of what is happening out there, what it is that we can do to step up our game in the Caribbean. So I think that, CCGI, I can't, and I'm not selling membership here. I'm just talking about my own personal experience with CCGI. It has really allowed me to perform better as a board member and to also give guidance and support to the young persons who are interested in becoming a board member. Because many years ago, sitting on a board was just really a plum opportunity, more perks, possible connections. Now it's a legal liability. You have a lot more responsibilities. You're held a lot more accountable by all stakeholders, be it the regulators, be it the shareholders, and the public itself, and potential investors. I think that is very key for any company to ensure that there is governance in place, because you will attract investors to your organization as well.
Yes, that's right. And a lot more stakeholders are interested in understanding the role of the board and why things are being run a particular way in an organization. But to get back to the types of speakers we attract to CCGI list, I would tell you it is not so much my work. It is really that there are so many people in the region who recognize the value of us focusing on how we govern and the need for us to improve our corporate governance practices. So I would share that it hasn't taken any special magic. It really has been sharing with people honestly and asking for them to lend their voice to this whole challenge for us to understand the need, first of all, because it's just as you said, a lot of directors generally were comfortable with sitting in the boardroom and however decisions are made because very little is known about what happens in the boardroom. But today's world is extremely different. Today's world, the board is being held to account. And so it is so important that directors are aware, not in terms of not the type of standard practices, but evolving issues.
That's right.
And so I want to mention we have coming up one of the things that you spoke about why it's so important for us to be able to have these level of persons discuss the notion of romantic relationships in the workplace. We have seen the Me Too movement, across the US and globally, and you understand that there's a disconnect between the expectations of some senior executives and their behavior and their expectations of younger persons, women in particular. I think the generation in the workforce today are much more educated, much more aware. They understand that they ought to be taken on their merit only and not on in terms of their sexuality or anything like that. And so there needs to be a very clear line drawn around expectations. And even if it's a romantic relationship, that can create a lot of havoc in the organization if it's not managed properly. And so as board members, you need to be aware, do these exist in the organization? Are directors involved? Because sometimes it's the
Yes,
directors
right.
themselves who
Correct.
get involved. Yes, and
And
so what are the policies? Go ahead.
absolutely. The organizations, it is shown, and there's empirical evidence, organizations with strong governance provide discipline and structure. Because I think employees understand and it instills in them the ethical values in terms of being an employee and behaving, in an inappropriate way. It wouldn't be acceptable or tolerated as well. But I think that, more and more the education part of ensuring, because a lot of people have joined boards, and I believe the onboarding, and these are some of the things that I have taken away from CCGI. The onboarding is not as, I would say, structured. It is not as informative as it should be, because I think it takes more than basically just sending a package with the passport meetings, the finances. It takes a lot more than that. It takes talking to the CEO. It takes going into the company to find out how the structure is, how are employees feeling about the company and all of that. So it's a lot more than just presenting a package and hoping that they read all of it and they can come to a board meeting to make informed decisions or perhaps provide strategy and direction for the company. So I think that's very important. And like I said, many years ago, board appointments were a friend. I know a friend, and we bring on, the board members. And I have seen in my own experience, I've seen, because fortunately for me, I have been on boards. I mean, I've been asked to serve on boards at a very early age in my leadership move or journey through organizations. And I've seen, I think sometimes I take things too seriously, but I take any appointment on the board very seriously. And I've seen many times, you go to board meetings, and persons are now opening their packages at board meetings. And I'm thinking, hey, wait a minute. I spent a whole night last night making sure that I have read all of these documents and I can possibly ask some hard questions. And that's, to me, is not representative of being being a part of a company in order to make a contribution to that company. Because being a board member, you obviously was selected based on your own expertise, your talent or skills and experience and all of that. And I think it's important for you to bring that to the board and to have that as part of the questions you ask, because, people always tell me, Liz, you ask all the hard questions. I'm like, okay, I mean, what am I supposed to do? I have to be
That's what
brutally
you're supposed
honest.
to do. Yes.
I have
Yes.
to be brutally honest when it comes to my own opinion. And if I need clarity, I have to ask a question. I oftentimes have to remind persons of that. That is my role. My role is an oversight role and to ask questions, to seek clarity so that I can understand the organization is being run in a structured and ethical manner. And I think one of the courses, and I've told you before, is to do a course on NGOs, serving on the board for NGOs, because I think a lot of people do take that seriously, because to me, it is just as important, especially if an NGO is a company, a registered company. The same ethics apply. It's very same ethics apply.
Yeah, but there are some differences, some nuances that exist when it's an NGO, because for us at CCGI, we are an NGO. We don't function in exactly the same way as most NGOs, because, for instance, I belong to the Project Management Institute Southern Caribbean chapter, which is also an NGO. As an NGO, we do all the work for the chapter. And
Yeah.
you find for a lot of NGOs, that is really the role of the board as well. You are both operational as well as you are strategic. And it's important to be able to understand that you carry both roles and to ensure that both are fulfilled. We had collaborated with the Cropper Foundation some months ago, where we had done some sessions like this to share on NGO governance. But I agree with you, there is need for us to also focus on that sector, because NGOs are really critical to the well-being of society. They fill a lot of the gaps that government may not do, that business is not doing, to ensure that across the board, the society is developing. So we need effective NGOs as well.
Absolutely. And then many NGOs, like the NGOs that I belong to, we also apply for funding in the corporate world. And the corporate world will want to know that you're running an organization that is above board, that has structure, that has procedures and policies in place to prevent fraud. Because a lot of these NGOs can, in fact, be taken over by people who have other ulterior motives, and not necessarily to do the work they say they're going to do. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's to me key. And I'm
Mhm.
hoping at some point in time you run a course that I'll try to encourage NGOs to be part of that, because that's my next focus, is to make sure that we have systems and procedures and structures in place, just like you have with companies. And of course, as you said, there are some nuances in terms of the differences, but to understand the role of a board of, the role you play as a director on that particular board. It's very important. It's very important. I know if persons, I always refer to the Enron case, and I always let persons know, I said, being a CEO, bringing in lots of money and making a whole lot of money doesn't mean, or being a spark, like the guy who was the one that was running the side companies that were shifting off, all of the things that didn't
Only
want to
like
shift with Exxon. Yes, he was running a side show there. So bright youngster, because he was young, he was bright, he was brilliant. And then, of course, the CEO wanted to make money. They wanted to see the stocks increase and all of that. And all of that leads to all of the possibilities without controls. It can lead a company, and like I said, let them down into bankruptcy because of all the jiggery-poogery that they were actually doing. And also the auditing firm that went out eventually.
Arthur Anderson, yes.
That's Arthur Anderson went out because they were consultants, first of all, to the company, and they were the auditors. So, I mean, that's a clear conflict of interest.
They were too ingrained and
Yeah.
were no longer independent. That was clear.
That's right. That's right. And of course, after that, all the rules and regulations started to be implemented. And I know companies, and reading on it, I constantly read up on it. Lots of companies felt it was difficult at the beginning, but I think they saw the wisdom of ensuring that there are controls in place. Because without controls, you can actually lose control of your company. You go
Yes,
with literal bankruptcy in
yes.
itself.
But the thing is, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, as much as it was well-meaning and probably did solve some problems, the reality is that it also costs a lot of
Costly. Costly.
organization. Yes,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of stress as well. And so one would hope that the board, if it is paying attention and if it is running the organization in the right direction, you will not have to then be so not held to mandatory compliance by law, which can take so much energy and so much attention away from your core purpose. Your core purpose is not to comply with regulations. Your core purpose is what your organization was established to do.
Yeah.
And so if we can get directors to understand that and to ensure that that is what is happening, because remember, Sarbanes-Oxley does not apply to a lot of organizations in the region here. It's for US listed organizations. And so we need to ensure that our governance practices are so of such a high level and quality that there isn't a need for governments to step in and put these kinds of regulations and controls in place for us as well.
Yeah, and the IFRS, which is International Financial Accounting System, which is used in the Caribbean, they're been constantly changing and upgrading their various standards. And I think that is it was done because they were pushed by SOX. SOX has really pushed other persons to look at things differently. And they're constantly reviewing and updating those standards, which is welcomed. Another area I think that is very important, and as you rightly said, just to kind of segue onto what you just said, is the internal audit function. And I think you have run some fantastic courses on the internal auditing because that's where it starts. Your internal audit section of your company is where everything starts. And I think if it is that management doesn't recognize that, it behoves the board to ensure that that is ensured that they recognize and understand the role of the internal audit. It helps management because I think that plays a vital role in when you look at what you're expected to do. My background is insurance, and the regulations in insurance has become more rigorous over the last couple of years. The AML provisions have become more rigorous, and as you rightly say, complex, costly as well, because you have to employ specialists now. You have to make sure that all of those regulations are, complied with your regulator, because you wouldn't get your license renewed. So, I mean, internal audit, you're doing a great job with that, because I think Howard is also a fantastic presenter pushing it.
Yeah, we
Howard
have
Dodson.
quite
He
a
done
few very good. Yeah, so Howard actually just a few days ago did a workshop for us on financial stewardship. We have Claire Gomez Miller, who does quite a bit of work on internal audit. In fact, she does that part of our certificate program. And we also have Janita John from South Africa, who was the chair of IIA Global. And she is truly, truly exceptional. So we are fortunate that we have facilitators of that caliber to help us be able to understand and appreciate the way in which this function is growing and its importance in the region. So
Yep.
I wanted to share, Liz, that we have been fortunate at CCGI that the members we currently have are people who have wanted to belong to the organization and who reached out to us first. We really have not done much marketing to try and bring in members to CCGI. That is something I'd like to change now because I believe we do have great offerings and that we should increase our membership, and that expansion would also allow us to do that much more.
Yep.
So we were very fortunate the last year to have Belize join us as members of CCGI through GA Rowe and Sons. So
Yeah.
many thanks to you and Alistair Rowe for that. I'm looking forward to seeing more companies out of Guyana join us, particularly because we are coming to Guyana in November when we will be
Yeah.
doing a series of events.
That's
So
great.
we will be doing two workshops with Claire Gomez Miller, and Claire is the former executive chair of CLICO. So she would be doing a workshop on insurance and risk. And I know, as you mentioned, the IFRS standards, there is IFRS 17, which has been given, quite a lot of challenges for the insurance sector. So she's going to be able to speak to that. We'll also be doing a two-day workshop on governance and compliance, and specifically we'll be looking at that internal audit function as well within that workshop. We also will have Professor Bob Garrett coming down to Guyana. So
Yeah, I'm
he,
looking forward to meeting
you know,
him.
yes,
Yeah.
for the governance dinner. So I'm looking forward to getting a lot more support in Guyana. Let's get, some more organizations be members, and let's have the voice from Guyana also be very loud in the region with respect to how we are improving and shaping our governance practices.
Yep. I am looking forward to November as well. I'm sure that there are a lot more companies, and I know when I attended last year and the year event, I saw surprisingly quite a few persons from Guyana who were company
Yeah.
secretaries when you had that company secretaries thing. So I think it's going to be a gradual process because
Yeah.
I sat on boards where governance, no, we're not interested in that. That's not for us, kind of. But I
Yes.
think over time things are evolving. And with all of these regulations coming into place, I think people are seeing the sense of ensuring that you have governance as part of your board charter so that you
Yes.
you can apply structures, you can improve your business because I think that's probably we're almost out of time, I think, but I certainly wish to leave with the audience the importance of governance. It can improve your performance as a business. It can attract new investors. It enables safe and faster growth, I think. That's very important. And it fosters trust. You present yourself as an organization that we trustworthy to do business with.
Mhm.
Kamla.
I agree. And there are people in Guyana, I will tell you, who are seeing it not because it's mandatory through regulations, but who appreciate the value of what governance brings. So we have our own former director from Guyana, Ramesh Duku, and we hope to see companies like Guyana Water become members. We also have Jason Farley, the current chair of the Guyana National Shipping Company, who has expressed interest in having the organization become members of CCGI. We've also been having discussions with banks, DIH. So there are a few potentials, but you are quite right. It does take time. I mean, we've been here for 12 years. So we certainly over the next 12, we anticipate that the majority of organizations within the Caribbean region should be a part of CCGI so that we can help shape what we'd like our governance to look like and how it should feel for us as a region in how we do things.
Yep, and we know that Jamaica is way ahead of many of our territories, and we look to Jamaica to help to fashion and shape governance because they have a really great relationship, certainly with the government, and in ensuring that you have board members that are qualified, relevant to the area they're actually being selected for, which is very important, I believe. in any country, because we're small countries, and I think we need to, a lot of persons, in smaller companies, they say, oh, well, we're a small company. We don't need that. Hello, it has to start somewhere. And if you have it done in the small companies, it will now edge out into bigger companies, recognizing the importance of it. Right.
I'm so
Right.
glad you mentioned Jamaica because you are quite right. As much as we do bring international experts from outside the region, we have seen that Jamaica is so far ahead of the curve for us, and there's so much we can learn from them. So we are happy to be members of the private sector organization of Jamaica, which is one of the drivers in Jamaica with respect to a lot of what they are able to do. Hopefully, we would be able to collaborate more because that's a key part of our value system here at CCGI, that we collaborate and share synergies that all of us can contribute, because this is not a competition. This is for
Exactly.
all of us to grow together.
Absolutely. I think that's key. That's very key. That we understand that we're here to help each other. And, I always say, why reinvent the wheel? If we can get assistance, certainly to model acts, governance acts, certainly relationships with the government, I think that will make it a lot easier and a lot faster to get implemented. Because we don't have to go and do a whole research paper or involve consultants to come up with ideas. We already have our consultants out of Jamaica. Hail up to Jamaica.
Yes, yes, and Camille Facey and her team,
Yep,
wonderful work being done in Jamaica.
absolutely.
All right, Liz, it's been such a pleasure talking to you here at Governance Life. We truly value you as a member, the amount of input you have made to help groom what CCGI looks like now. Your voice is a very respected one and valued one here at CCGI. So thank you so much for joining us today. I know you have a major contribution to make, and you're doing so across the region, not just in Guyana, but your influence is very clearly in Belize, but through CCGI, it's also across the entire Caribbean region. So we appreciate having you.
Thank you so much. And just a final word to all those viewers out there. Once you introduce governance structure and your board and executives adhere to those structure statements or whatever it is that you put in place, the rest of the organization will embrace it and will emulate it. So we have to start at the top. So thank you so much for inviting me to be part of your 12th anniversary, and you're getting into your teenage years. So I'm thinking better things are yet to come. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Liz. So thank you everyone who have joined us on this live stream. We appreciate having you listen and be part of this conversation with us. Join us again. We are going to go monthly from now, the first Friday of every month. You can look out for us from 11:30 as we discuss evolving issues in corporate governance and look at how it applies to us here in the Caribbean region. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Right.
Bye
Thank
now.